And we are here to look at National Federation of High School Basketball rules, get better as basketball officials. When are we going to do that? We're going to do that right now. Stick around. Greetings. Welcome back to the Basketball Rules Expert, where we look at National Federation of High School Basketball rules. We may lift them off the printed page. We may breathe life into them and simplify and clarify, amplify so that we can get better as basketball officials. Our continuing series of Basketball Rules Expert leads to comments and questions that we get at the website and on YouTube. And today we're going to look at viewer questions and answer those and see what we can learn as basketball officials. Let's get started with our very first play scenario. Rick O. from Helena, Montana asks, I had a scenario in a game yesterday on a throw-in. I believe I called it correctly. But when you have a coach yelling at you for a violation, I was second-guessing for a moment. The scenario was after a scored goal by Team B, A1 has the ball out of bounds with control of the ball and both feet out of bounds. We would assume the official has an account going here and the throw-in has begun. A1's right foot breaks the plane of the end line, but does not touch the floor before releasing the ball. Is this legal? I ruled it to be legal. The coach was yelling that it should be a throw-in violation. Thanks. Well, thank you, Rick. All right, Rick, this is a great question because it forces us to, re-examine. First of all, during throw-ins, things happen. Unusual things. Things that like our brain says, wait a minute, right? And so we can have a moment of doubt, but your reaction here on this play is fantastic because it's like the coach is yelling for this. I know it's something unusual, but I do not see illegal, right? My brain says, no, nothing illegal has happened here, and we're going to go with that, right? Important to understand the restrictions on throwers and the restrictions on defensive players. Of course, a defensive player cannot violate the boundary plane with any part of their body. Does that same restriction apply to a thrower, right? Can a thrower extend the ball through the boundary plane with their hands? Can they step a foot in the air above the floor? Imagine the volleyball serve, right? What do the players do? They run towards the line that they must initiate from and be behind when they contact the ball, and they jump forward with great force, etc. Could a basketball player do the same thing? Could they run, jump into the air, be 10 feet onto the court before they release the ball? Yes, there's no restriction against, right? That's the key component here. So during a throw-in, a thrower in this instance may break the plane with a foot as long as that foot does not contact the floor before the release of the throw-in, right? That would be a legal play. Coaches are going to react to things that look funny, right? They just are going to do that. That's because that's what coaches do. They're not paid to know the rules. We're paid to know the rules. Oh. So I go here. So in this instance, where we thought for a moment potentially this was a violation, is this a violation? No. No, it's not. Got that one right, Rick, and thanks for submitting that. That was submitted on the website. Yeah. That was submitted on our website. If you want to submit a question, you can always submit it at hello@abetterofficial.com. If you have a rules question, feel free to submit that. We respond to all email questions, and we respond to most YouTube questions as well. Okay, let's look at our next question. Three-part question regarding timeouts. Team A is granted a full timeout and returns to the court after 40 seconds. Is Team B allowed to continue with the timeout for the remaining 20 seconds? Another scenario, Team A is out of 30-second timeouts, but has full timeouts remaining. The coach of Team A only wants a 30-second timeout. Can they request the timeout the full timeout be used as a 30-second timeout? And Team A calls a timeout only to make substitutions. Can Team B use that timeout in its entirety if they want to? That question comes from Keith at hello@abetterofficial.com. Rules question. Thank you, Keith, for that question. Easy to break that one down, right? We have a scenario where a timeout is requested by, let's say, the home team. They are ready to play after 40 seconds. The visiting team is still in the huddle. Coach says, no, we're ready to play, right? Each team is entitled to use the full length of each timeout that is requested and granted. If we have granted a 60-second timeout, each team gets the full opportunity to take advantage of that time as a timeout. When both teams are returning to play prior to the end of a timeout, let's say it was a full timeout requested, a 60-second timeout, to use a very distinct NFHS language. Our 60-second timeout is requested and granted. Both teams are ready to play after 30 seconds, right? We can put the ball in play, no problem. So that's our first scenario. The coach only wants a brief timeout. He only has fulls remaining, 60-second remaining. It's all dependent upon what their opponent wants in that situation. And our third scenario, when it's just for substitutions, right, we would, in this instance, most likely check with the opposing coach. This would be a common scenario. Just substitution scenario would be a relatively common. In a, let's say, a lopsided score, end of the game, want to get players from the end of the bench who maybe don't play that often, want to get them into the game, requesting a timeout in that instance just to do that. We would check with the visiting coach. Coach, do you need the timeout? Or were you good with just substitutions? That would be a great game management tip, way to handle that. Also, another great game management tip is if you're in that situation, there's a minute 45 remaining. The reserve players who don't get to play much have come to the table, right? Maybe we find a reason in that instance on our own so that they don't have to call the timeout. Again, the game is decided. Those players, those subs are looking to play. Maybe we can find a reason to stop play in that instance to get those subs in the game. Try to be aware of those situations, and everybody appreciates it, right? When little Johnny, who never gets to play, comes to the table with 45 seconds remaining in the game, and we recognize that. It's like, remember, ref, you got to have your shoes tied. For me personally, I will have an untied shoe, even if it's only a little in that instance, so we can get them into the game. So in this instance, in the instance of a just substitution, I would check with the opposing coach. If they want the timeout, they're certainly entitled to it. Great way to go about it. Hey, we've got a tremendous group of show supporters who help fuel our broadcast. Let's take a look who's up on the show supporter big board today. Chuck Kazulis, David Peterson, Peter Blum, Darren Hansen, and Les O'Connor Jr. Much appreciated and much love. You want to support the show? There's always going to be a link down in the show notes below. All right, let's take a look at our next question. Wayne S. All right, this is a great one. All right, here's a play that happened, and a few of us had a discussion with different interpretations. It's a free throw scenario. A1 is attempting 1-and-1. After release on a possible rebound, his teammate A2 is called for a foul. What is the ruling? Does the free throw count? Does A1 get a second free throw? Free throw does not count, and opponents who are in the 1-on-1 shoot free throws. Any help would be appreciated. All right, Wayne. So I got this question from Wayne, and then within an hour, I got a question from another official about a similar scenario, right? Free throw scenarios can present challenges to us because things happen in those scenarios and we're sort of left at a moment of confusion potentially about what happens next, because there's several things that are going on. Does the free throw count, etc.? So what I wanted to do was simply, in this scenario, what do we take, right? One of the purposes of the basketball rules expert is that we could take things with us on the court, right? We can take concepts and fundamentals that can help us in these scenarios. In this scenario where multiple things potentially happen, I'm not taking with me, okay, if A and B and C happen in this situation, the ruling is this. What I'm going to take with me is certain fundamental concepts so that we can look at a play scenario, break it down, and get things right? And some of those things are merited free throws. What is a merited free throw? When does a free throw begin? When does a free throw end? Okay, these kind of things. And so if we look at some scenarios, right, in this situation, we have A1 shooting the first of a 1-and-1. The throw is successful, but during the throw, there is a foul by the defense. No, a foul by the offense against the opponent. How would we proceed in this situation? Let's just start there. A1 has received 1-and-1 bonus. They have merited a second free throw after their first free throw is successful. Did this foul by a teammate after the release of the throw cause the ball to become dead? No. No, it does not. What causes the ball to become dead? That's another concept that we have to take with us onto the court. So, thrower releases the throw. Their teammate displaces a defender during the throw. The goal is scored. The foul is ruled. What happens next? NFHS, we're going to do things in the order of occurrence. Does A1's free throw count? The scored goal. Yes, it does. The ball had not been caused to become dead. Score the goal. What happens next? Have their free throws ended? They were awarded 1-and-1. They made their first. They have a second merited free throw that's due to them. But we have to administer the foul, the bonus free throws that result from the foul by the teammate. Okay, so we're going to clear the lane. No players in marked lane spaces. A1 will attempt their second merited free throw in that situation. Then we would resume the game with the bonus free throws awarded to the player fouled by teammate A2 at the other end, right? That's how we're going to do that. Now let's switch it. Let's say the foul was by a defensive player in this situation. A1, throw, ball's in flight, foul by a defensive player against A2. We're going to do the same thing, clear the lane, allow the second free throw, then resume with bonus free throws for A2 with the lane filled, right? Straightforward. Now let's take it back a step, right? Instead of the foul occurring after the try was in flight, let's say that the foul occurred while the ball was still in the shooter's hand. They've begun their motion and the foul occurs. Their teammate fouls an opponent before the release of the try. They're positioning for, they're anticipating the rebound, etc. Before the release of the try, teammate fouls B2. A2 fouls B2. And then the release of the try, the ball goes in the basket. Do we score that goal in that instance? Has the foul by a teammate while the ball is still in A1's hand caused the ball to become dead or not? That's what we need to know. In that instance, since it was a foul by a teammate, the ball becomes dead. The release of the try would not count. Okay, so A2 now has fouled an opponent. They are awarded bonus free throws. What happens to the original? Take the first, they'd get the second, and we'd go to the other end and administer the bonus free throws. Now, the fourth scenario. Defensive player B2 fouls A2 while the shooter is beginning their motion, right? In this instance, continuous motion would apply. So we're bringing, these are the fundamentals that we're taking with us. If they release that try and it was successful, that goal would count. We would clear the lane. They'd do their second merited free throw, etc. And one other scenario we'll throw in here is after the goal is scored, a foul is ruled. So the players are engaged. The first of a 1-on-1 is successful. After the ball has passed through, a subsequent shove at the end, a foul is ruled. What are we going to do in this situation? The goal has been scored, the ball is dead, and we have contact that would rise potentially to the level of a common foul. If this would occur during live ball, we'd rule that this was a common foul. What are we going to do in this situation where the ball is dead? In a situation where the ball is dead, we need to evaluate whether it rises to the level of an intentional or flagrant foul. If it was just contact, let's say displacement, that would rise to the level of a common foul, then our guidance is to ignore in that situation. If it rose to the level of an intentional foul, excessive contact, then we would rule an intentional technical foul in that situation. So our original question yields a chance to think through multiple scenarios, and that's what we like to do. If we think those through in advance, then when they happen in the game, it's like, this is not something unusual. Let's just slow down and evaluate what we have. Evaluate the components, right? This player attempting the first of a 1-on-1, it was successful. Does the goal count? Of course it does, right? The try was in flight. The ball did not become dead. The ball entered the basket, etc. Is that player still due a merited free throw? Yes. Yes, they are. In our original scenario, are we going to assess the penalty for the foul that occurred during that first free throw? Yes, we will. We'll do it in the order of occurrence, and we will work our way through using our fundamental concepts that we brought with us onto the basketball court so that we can get plays right. All right, next question. A1 is fouled on an attempt for goal by B5. Afterwards, B5 is assessed a technical foul for foul language. Prior to any of that, there were subs waiting at the scorer's table. When do you call in the subs? Gustavo Valenciana III, great question, right? We have a technical foul situation, subs waiting at the table. How are we going to handle that? Great question, right? The fundamental situation here is A1 is fouled by B5, and then B5 is assessed a technical foul. Sounds like one of my recent games. Right? So in this instance, the lane is going to be cleared. A1 is going to attempt their free throws related to the shooting foul, and then afterward, we're going to have a technical foul, etc. We have subs waiting at the table. When do those subs come in? Well, here's the factors we need to think about. First of all, when we get to the technical foul free throws, one of those substitutes may be the player that the coach wants to attempt those free throws. So normally, we're not going to administer any substitutions until we are about to proceed with the game or prior to a final free throw when the ball will be live, but in this instance, that's not the case. So we would attempt the merited free throws for the shooting foul, and then we would have the technical foul free throws attempted, and then we would bring in substitutes. But we have to be sensitive to the fact that one of those substitutes may be one of the players that the coach wants to attempt the technical foul free throws. In that situation, that player would be allowed in, and anytime we're going to bring in one player, we're going to bring in all the players. Okay? But what it also brings up is a scenario where, in this situation, B5 has been assessed a technical foul for foul language. Let's say B5 is upset. Right? The coach wants to get them out of the game. Can we allow a substitution in that instance? It is not the prescription by rule, by mechanic, for us to do that, but can we? I would say we can. I would say we can. Do we have to make the upset player remain on the court where they could potentially wreak more havoc in the game, be assessed another technical foul because they are upset, or do we want to get them to the coach in the bench area in that instance? I don't see any reason why we cannot administer those substitutions earlier if we think it would make the game better. That would be my approach to that situation. Is we're not going to hold that player hostage. You have to stay on the court. What are you going to do now, right? You're going to do something that rises to the level of a technical foul. I want to see, right? It's like we want to smooth the situation, I would say, there. So that's how I would handle those situations. Just be sensitive. Does the coach want one of those substitutes to potentially shoot? If we're going to bring that player in, then all the players are coming in, and use some flexibility in this situation to make sure your game runs smoothly. That would be my counsel on that one. Matthew Matzke has a scenario with a follow-up question. The game ends at the buzzer. The player from Team A has the ball. Player from Team B grabs the ball and then takes a swing at Player A. Questions. In a fight, should a referee try to stop the fight or let the fight happen until someone sees it? Second, is this still a technical flagrant foul even though the game is over? I separated the players, but not sure if it's my job or let the coaches do it. Yikes. Yikes. Scary scenario, right? In a fight scenario, if we can make a preemptive move to prevent further escalation by getting our body between, by separating the players, but our job is not to enter the fray and get between players who are throwing punches. That is not going to be our best foot forward in that situation, right? These players are fighting. We have to get back and take information. This is after the game. This is a very unusual situation, not something we're going to see very often. Of course, our guidance is when the game is over, the officials are going to leave the visual confines, and at that point, once they leave the visual confines, then their jurisdiction over the game has ended. So if in this situation, the officials leave the visual confines, suddenly we hear, oh my gosh, something's going on. We've got players running towards the door we just exited, and there's a fight on the court. Our jurisdiction over that has ended. But until we leave the visual confines, we do have jurisdiction. This would be a messy situation because, first of all, are players leaving the bench in this situation? No, the game is over, right? There's no restriction that they are on the bench, in the bench scenario. Going to be super messy. We're going to hope there's video. We could, if we see, player A1 and B1 are engaged in fighting, we can recognize that, include that in a game report, etc. If it's a melee where everybody's coming off and there's people out of the stands, etc., we're only going to be able to provide a minimal amount of information. But to answer your question, it's not our job to prevent these players from fighting physically by getting in between them once they have begun that action. If we can take a preemptive action that prevents or de-escalates, right, we're going to do that, but we're not going to wade too far into those waters to do that. So unique situation. It's going to be very complicated. Don't get in the middle of a fight scenario. Like in the NBA, WNBA, NCAA Division I men's and women's, there's a little different energy involved, right? There's a little different vibe. These players are assets of their teams. In the NBA, officials will enter the fray. They will put hands on players. They will get players separated, etc., because these are multi-million-dollar assets that they're dealing with. The league says, we want you to protect the players from themselves in this situation. In a high school setting, that is just not the case, right? We want to keep things safe and fair, but if a fight starts to break out, our job is not to enter the fray, etc., right? In a normal situation, during the game, we need information about who's potentially involved in the fight, etc., so that is what I would say about that. Let's look at the next play. When are you allowed to run the baseline on a throw-in? Lou Torres, that's an easy question. Even I can answer that, right? We're going to allow a player to move along the end line after a scored goal or an awarded goal, right? So let's think of those scenarios, right? We have a situation where a team scores a goal, their opponent has the resulting throw-in. They are allowed to move along the end line without restriction. There's many other things, etc., but after a scored goal. But the team calls a timeout. They come back from the timeout. Our point of interruption was after a scored goal. They have the same freedom, etc. Multiple players can be out of bounds, etc. after a scored goal. Let's say a different scenario. Player drives to the basket, releases a try. Goaltending is ruled. A goaltending violation is ruled. Are the players allowed? Yes. The awarded goal. We have awarded points in that situation. The team would have the ability to run the end line. When does that restriction to run the end line go away? Right? We have a running the end line. We have a release of a throw-in. Player kicks the basketball. A defensive player kicks the basketball. We know that the result of a kickball violation is a designated spot throw-in. But in this instance, NFHS says let's not take away the team's ability to run the end line by that violation occurring. So those are all the scenarios we'd be looking at there. Appreciate the question. Let's move on to our next question. Some old-style nets, Dan Cannon asks, have a tendency to hang up on the rim after a scored goal. Many officials will stop play and release the net, but if a team is pressing, that may give an advantage to the defense. Are we as officials tasked to untangle the net, or should we let play continue? I don't know of any rule that addresses this issue. Your thoughts? My thoughts are that it's an interesting situation, right? Some officials, boom, every time, blow the whistle. Let's fix the net. Those officials will also, anytime they see a shoelace untied, let's stop play, right? There's no provision for the officials to stop play in this instance. There's no provision for us to stop play at all. Obviously, if it is a pressing situation, we are giving a team an advantage in this situation by doing so. Can the officials wait for the appropriate dead ball to have this addressed? And how will it be addressed? Let's say we're down at the other end. The ball becomes dead. Let's say an out-of-bounds violation. We look back at the other end of the court and the net is flipped up over the basket. We'd like to resolve that. How can we resolve that? We can ask one of the players on the court, hey, can you fix that for me? We can go Spider-Man and jump up. We're doing pull-ups on the rim. We're fixing a tangled net. We could do that. Somebody may have one of those mop thingies, at the end of the court, and could just reach up with that and knock it down. Could we have a team member off the bench at that end of the court enter the court and fix it for us? Would that be a technical foul? So this is not addressed by rule. I would not stop play and look for the first opportunity. But let's say the net gets flipped up, the team is pressing, we don't stop play, dribble, stolen in the backcourt, player goes to the basket, the net is up, right? The layup is made, it causes the net to come through, everything's fine, right? The worst case scenario would be it's flipped up and the try, because maybe the net is tangled somewhat when it's flipped up, isn't allowed to pass through the goal. That would not be something we'd want. But we have no opportunity during live play. We have no guidance that says stop play and fix this. That is not the priority on this play. Go in there. All right, from a YouTube viewer, indicating a play where there was a jump ball ruling. This was from a 5-play Friday, and my language on the play was incorrect. At 15:13, the play is described, you indicate a jumper cannot leave the semicircle. Where in the rules book is that? I was able to find the restriction for the circle, but Rule 6, but not semicircle. If circle is correct, jumper did not but necessarily violate by leaving early, correct? FHS Media Productions points this out, and this is a great point out of incorrect verbiage, right? Sometimes when somebody is speaking, right, we're talking about the rules, we will utter things that we misspeak. But what this points out is not me misspeaking. It was me actually have a misunderstanding about the rule. So jump ball restrictions, the jumpers must be in their semicircle on the release, right? They are required to be there in their semicircle. After the ball is contacted, the restriction is they must be within the circle until the ball is contacted. The circle, not the semicircle. So in this play, the toss was made. One of our jumpers immediately ran to the other end, anticipating a back tap by the other jumper, and contacted the ball before they left the circle. But on that play, they subsequently caught the ball, which did render a violation by rule. But a great catch here that I misspoke. The restriction is that the player is not allowed to leave the circle prior to the ball being touched. And we appreciate when our incorrect understanding about a rule is pointed out, right? Because like we like to say, our rules knowledge is like a round of cheese. It's like perfectly smooth. Everything looks great, but you cut that round of cheese and suddenly there's little pockets where we either have a misconception about the rule or we're just, not a misconception, we're just wrong, or we don't know, right? There's little areas, little voids, little overlaps where we apply sort of the concepts from one rule to another, etc. So it's always an ongoing process for refining our rules knowledge, and we are not immune to making mistakes. And whenever mistakes are made, like we always counsel, we have to call them out. Somebody steps up at the front of an association and makes a false statement, right? We can allow that. Oh, I don't want to embarrass them, right? Game, crew, you, right? I think you misspoke, right? Actually, in that situation, A1 could not do that thing, etc., right? So that we get better together to say. Let's look at the next one. Also from YouTube, Lovrich. A1, A2, B1 engage in fighting. Okay, so 3 players on the court fighting. A6 leaves the bench and does not participate. B6 and B7 leave the bench and do not participate. Are there any free throws awarded? In other words, is each bucket of offenders handled separately? My thinking is B shoots 2 free throws, then A shoots 2 free throws and gets the ball for a division line throw-in due to the order of the fouls. Is this correct? Ed, this is a great question. You have punched me in the nose with this scenario, right? So we have a scenario where we've got buckets of players, right? We have players who are participating in a fight. We have to evaluate that bucket of players. Then we have players who have left the bench area and have not participated, and we have to evaluate that bucket of players. After we've done those evaluations, do we put the bucket, do we pour our results together to determine what happens next? That is a great question. So, fighting players, first of all, every player in this situation is disqualified, as are the team members who came off the bench when a fight has or may break out. Everybody has received a flagrant technical foul, or a flagrant foul in the case of the fighting players, etc. So we've got 2 players from Team A and 1 player from Team B engaged in a fight. Related to that action, how many free throws will be attempted? 2 free throws, right? If it was 5 and 4, if it was 3 and 2, 2 and 1, 1 and 0, no, that wouldn't work. The difference will determine how many free throws are attempted in that situation. So we'll have 2 free throws related to that. The differential on players leaving the bench, we had 2 from Team B, 1 from Team A. So Team A would be awarded 2 free throws in that instance, 1 indirect technical for each head coach in that situation. Oh, this is thin ice here in the winter season. Me making declarative statements. I'm sure. Yes, we are confident. So we have that discrepancy. We have Team B that's due 2 free throws related to the fighting players. We have Team A who's due 2 free throws related to the players who left the bench. Do we attempt the 2 free throws, then the 2 free throws, and then since the subsequent one was administered last, who gets the ball for division line throw-in? Ed, I believe your interpretation is correct. I am subject to being found incorrect on that. So we would have Team B attempt 2 free throws, Team A attempt 2 free throws, and then a Team A throw-in at the division line opposite the table. Messy situation. That's the adjudication. Go to the next play. From YouTube, Samantha Piet? Could you clarify where the ball gets thrown in from after a backcourt violation? What if the ball rolls all the way back court towards the basket, and that's where the player touches it? Does it get thrown in where they touched it or at the division line? Samantha, that's a very logical question. If we look at other levels in the NBA, I think they always take it out at the division line. But the violation has occurred. What caused the violation to occur? Team was in control in the front court. They were the last to touch in the front court and the first to touch in the backcourt. Where they touched the basketball would be the spot of the violation. That's a situation where we have a spot of a violation where our throw-in is always going to be at the spot nearest the violation. So while intuitively we may always be drawn to the division line for the subsequent throw-in, it's going to depend on where the ball was touched. We could have a scenario where it's touched in the lane area and the subsequent throw-in would be on the end line. And getting our throw-in spots is really important, as an end line throw-in leads to points more often than a sideline throw-in. right? Statistically proven, right? If a team is due merited free throw or merited throw in on the end line, we certainly want to accomplish that for them. So, to answer your question, very simply, the touching causes the violation. At the spot nearest the touching would be the correct answer. From YouTube, Dan Grangood asks, a jump ball scenario that I didn't think was covered. On a jump ball to start the game, jumper A1 bats the ball out of bounds while not touching the floor inbounds. Is this a rejump or just an out of bounds violation and the ball given to team B for a throw-in? Right? Unusual things can happen during a jump ball, and of course we're just starting the game. We're not super engaged. We don't know which way the teams are going. It's a moment of where we can potentially, let's slow down, think it through. That is an out of bounds violation. The ball became live. The ball was released by the thrower. It became by the tossing official. It became live. The player touched the ball. The clock has started. The game has started. The ball then subsequently goes out of bounds. This is simply an out of bounds violation because one player caused it to go out of bounds. If we have both jumpers bat the ball and it goes out of bounds and we cannot determine who caused it to go out of bounds, it's deemed to be that both of those players caused it to go out of bounds. The clock would stop. We would re-administer a jump ball with those two players. The clock would have run, and maybe at 7:58 in most states. And we would re-administer the jump ball between the two players who caused the ball to go out of bounds, right? So that's a scenario we can think through there. But with that, on we move. From YouTube, Troy McFadden. Good evening, Greg. Do you have a video on when and how long you should blow your whistle other than when you are calling a violation or a foul? I do not have this video, but what our counsel is to utilize your whistle as an extension of your voice, right? We want to put our voice in the game. It can have a very positive impact, avoid confusion, etc. We can use our whistle as an extension of that. We can use our whistle in situations that can help clarify, right? What do we want on the court? We want an absence of confusion. We want everybody to know what's going to happen next. We want everybody to know what is about to happen. Right? We can use our whistle, a super long whistle, to help bring teams out of their huddles, etc. If one of our team is a straggler and we are about to put the ball in play, and we want to, let's say a division line throw in opposite the table to start the second period. Team A is on the court ready. They are due the throw in. Team B is slow out of their huddle. We can use resumption of play in that situation, or we can simply, extend our whistle that we are about to put the ball into play, etc. After confusion, let's say a clock has been adjusted, there has been a delay in the proceedings, we're going to have a front court throw-in. Can we utilize our whistle to say, hey, we're about to resume play in this instance? Yes, we can. So just think of it as an extension of your voice is my counsel. And you utilize it in a fashion that helps make the game better by eliminating confusion, giving everybody a heads up what's going to happen next, etc. What else do we have from YouTube? Roland asks, or makes a plea that I think everybody can appreciate. Can you accelerate your yammering, Greg? So one of the feedback items regarding 5-Play Friday is because we look at all the things and we talk about all the things, and even the edited version does mean that there's a lot of yammering. There's a lot of talking, right? Because we're talking about all of the things. We're trying to break things down and get better. It's always possible you could go with a format and say, here's a play, we do the play, and then we're going to talk about it for 30 seconds, and then we're going to do the next play. That's not what that show is all about. That's not what this show is all about. We want to, take a look at the rule scenario from this angle, from this angle, from this angle, etc., and get better. Vocalize the words, bring the rules off the printed page, use the language, immerse ourselves in the language, etc. So while we can appreciate, right, on our 5-Play Friday, it's basically a 2-hour broadcast, and we try to edit it down into about 30 minutes. I can appreciate the thought, and I'm sure this is let's say consistent feedback, Roland, and I think you speak for many when you ask, can we just get on with it? Let's look at another comment. From YouTube, Ken Housden, I'm going with Housden, asks, if you have a flagrant foul on white and then a technical foul on red after the shots, who gets the throw in? Does it go to the possession arrow? Excellent question, right? So if we have a flagrant foul on white, a flagrant foul, meaning flagrant personal foul, would occur during live ball. When that foul occurs, the ball becomes dead. Subsequently, if we have a technical foul during the dead ball period, how would we adjudicate that play scenario? So let's say we have a flagrant foul on B1. What is the penalty for a flagrant foul? Always 2 free throws to the offended player or their eligible substitute, and the ball to the team at the spot nearest the foul. Except when that flagrant foul potentially occurs during a missed 3-point try for goal, then it would be 3 free throws to the offended player or their eligible substitute, and the ball at the spot to the team at the spot nearest the foul. That's the penalty for a flagrant foul. But in this instance, we have a subsequent technical foul that we will assess penalties in the order of occurrence. So a flagrant personal foul and a technical foul will never be lumped together. It's not a double foul scenario. So we will not go to the possession arrow in this instance. We will do things in the order of occurrence, assess the penalty for the flagrant foul. That's a disqualifying act. That player would be disqualified by rule. The player who was fouled would attempt the free throws unless they were injured. Then the substitute for that player, had that in a situation last night, injured player in a one-on-one situation. It was an end-of-game situation. Try to give the player every opportunity to get right on their own. Coach, hold up just a second. If you come on, we're going to have to replace the player. In the end, they could not continue. Inform the coach the substitute would attempt their merited free throws, etc. Right? So in a flagrant foul situation, that is not an unlikely scenario. And then afterward, in this instance, the opponent would get technical foul free throws. And since we do things in the order of occurrence, we would resume the game with the division line throw-in opposite the table for the team that attempted the technical foul free throws. So that is how we would adjudicate that play scenario. Key to recognize NFHS order of occurrence. This foul happened, then this foul happened. We're going to do it in the order of occurrence. Since the technical foul happened last, it would be a division line throw-in opposite to the table to the team that attempted those technical foul free throws. From YouTube, Kenneth Moore asks, hey, what all goes into making those mic'd up videos? Those are really helpful as a novice official. Well, I appreciate that. We made, of course, the mic'd up game video almost 10 years ago now, I think, that we made that, maybe 8 years ago. And it was a good example of utilizing technology, right? So nowadays, our game video is up on NFHS network. All the teams, varsity teams especially, have their games on video. They're on Huddle. Is crossover still a thing? Or on YouTube? They're available to us. But back in the day, that was not the case. We had to struggle to get our game video. In my mic'd up video that I did, I actually giving out DVDs in mailers to give to coaches so that they could potentially burn a DVD and mail it to me so our crew could evaluate the game video. These were the far off times, and we appreciate the technological advances. But in that game, right, I'm mic'd up. But what am I using? I'm using an old cell phone in my back pocket, basically a simple mic that's just like a audio headset mic that's had the earbuds cut off. Really super simple, low tech solution to do that. And the actual camera that was filming was like 720p handheld cell phone. We had to be creative back in the day to do that. If I was to do one these days, I'd do it with a little bit better technology, but very effective. And I know that a number of young officials have gained value from that video, and I appreciate that. Right, just understanding the language we may use on the court, how we're communicating with stakeholders in the game, both the players, the coaches, the table, our partners, etc. Just an example of verbiage, etc. Love mic'd up videos. Love hearing officials on the court. NCAA officials do. There's a number of mic'd up videos. NBA officials. Just hear what goes on in their interactions with stakeholders in the game and how they go about communicating. Because communicating is obviously a critical component to officiating the game of basketball. So I appreciate that feedback, Kenneth. And in that instance, it was super low tech, but I found it to be very valuable, and I appreciate you watching. Hey, we've got a tremendous group of show supporters who help fuel our broadcast. Let's take a look who's up on the show supporter big board today. Chuck Kazulis, David Peterson, Peter Blum, Darren Hansen, and Les O'Connor Jr. Much appreciated and much love. You want to support the show? There's always going to be a link down in the show notes below. We've got it. Additional video content available for you here. Here's the video we referred to, the recorded video while we're on the court. Here's the jump ball video that we pulled the play from. Make your choice. Choose wisely. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.